Hi, Dave.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Dave. Do we curse on this podcast?
Yes, Eric. Yes, we do.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave.
Welcome to Adventures in Collecting,
where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls.
along with our journeys as collectors. Welcome back to Adventures in Collecting. We're
Hi.
back.
We are.
So- Well, it's been an interesting time because we had our first bonus pod last week, which was some additional Toy Fair coverage. We had that cool little interview with the amazing Etchman.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, it was really neat, especially on the he was just watching him sketch people was crazy. But I'm burying the lead here because we have a very special guest with us today.
We do.
On this
We do.
episode. Today's guest needs absolutely no introduction here in the toy world. And chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you've no doubt watched at least one of his videos on YouTube or seen his posts on Instagram. We're of course talking about Toy Shiz.
Hello. Thank you for having me on. And yes, you better have all watched at least one episode or else my metrics will tell me otherwise. No, but thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Everyone staying healthy and alive, I'm hoping.
Yeah, so far so good.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I think that the name of this episode should be podcasting at home with Toy Shiz.
Yeah. Healthy podcasting, social podcasting.
Yeah, so we were talking just before we press record, but this is an interesting episode for Dave and I as well, because we've never done this podcast remotely, and I'm currently sitting in our normal space alone, and Dave is probably trapped in his room somewhere.
Oh, as I've been for the past 10 days or so. So
And I'm actually on the beach in California right now, just chilling out. So it's perfect.
I did bring the garbage out today, so that was exciting.
I moved the car. That was my my exciting adventure today.
Oh, I should do that. I'll just flip it onto the other side of the street later, I think.
Well, before we dive too deeply into all of the effects of staying at home on the toy world, but before we dive into all the topics and ask you all the fun questions, we always like to ask our guests, what toys are you really excited about right now, and what's your latest pickup?
Ooh. Well, okay, the latest pickup, Amazon. I didn't think it was coming because they keep saying, "Oh, Amazon's not shipping non-essentials." But that Venom, the Marvel Legends, the fan channel one, showed up at my door. Yesterday. So I took a look at him last night. It's a great figure. It's the Monster Venom repainted, so it's not a whole heck of a lot different, but I like it. I'm a big Venom fan, so he's very cool. And things I'm excited about coming. Um, I like that new Toei Spider-Man that they showed up, the Japanese Spider-Man. You guys see
Hell
that one?
yeah,
That's really cool.
the emissary from hell himself.
Right? Yeah. Somebody sent me the images, and I'm like, finally, finally, what I mean? Like you'd think there'd be a ton of figures for this, and there's really not. And I think they nailed it. I would have preferred black mark, the spider webs on him. But I think he looks great.
Yeah,
I love that iteration of Spider-Man.
and I love all the pieces that come with him too. So like the wrist gear, the like wearable wrist gear. You can get the mech that he pilots.
Yeah,
They went like full in on on that little line.
I know. I'm glad they do that. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you get like a basic version or something like that, and they go, "Oh, we decided to do another one. Here's version 2, and then version 3." You're like, "Oh my god, just give me the one straight out the gate. I only need one. I don't need 5 of these things."
You know what? I'd be willing to bet that there was a little bit of a rise in popularity of that Spider-Man following the Toys That Made Us documentary, or the
Yeah.
when they showed like the Power Rangers stuff, because I honestly I had no idea that thing existed until I watched that episode of the show.
It's so interesting to know that like whole story that, with Power Rangers, with this Spider-Man show, it heavily influenced it, and then Super Sentai, and then Power. It's like things that you would never think go together, but ultimately you're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. I
I had
mean,
never known I needed to see that until I saw that it exists.
yeah, it's
I
a
mean,
bat poop crazy show, but it's amazing.
yeah, it is absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. And I'm so
100% wild.
and SH and having SH Figure Arts make it, like that's the brand that should be making that toy for
Yeah,
sure.
and with it, with the character rumored, I mean, it's like heavily rumored, and I think the director, posted a teaser about it if I remember correctly. But for Spider Verse 2, I'm sure we will see a lot more of that. That's on the docket to make, so to speak. Like, hey, push this character. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with 2099 being the Stinger character, like if they could bring that back too, that would be fantastic. Those
Yeah.
are like
Oh,
two of the best kind of rando Spider-Men.
I wouldn't mind a whole 2099 line like Ghost Rider, Hulk, all those characters that were wild in the 90s.
Yeah,
Just those complete.
Punisher, the Doom
Yeah.
one, like they were all crazy.
Yeah.
Shit, while we're talking about that, I want the Ultimate Spider, the Unlimited Spider-Man Unlimited, the one that was like the pseudo sequel to the animated series. That was like
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
a
Okay.
hybrid 2099 looking Spider-Man. Show is awful. It's like super
Uh,
weird, and there's like
it's the worst.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's
it's like the island of Dr. Moreau in space. It's very strange.
I'll tell you, when I was younger, and it was at San Diego Comic Con. It was like right after the original Spider-Man the animated series had finalized, and I was at Comic Con, and somebody goes, "Oh, have you seen that they're doing a sequel to Spider-Man the animated series?" And I'm like, "No way! Like that's like because what happens to Mary Jane and like all that kind of stuff." And they go, "Oh, it's at the booth." So they point me in the direction. I go over to the booth, and I remember looking at. They had all the character designs like on this wall, and I'm like, "What am I like?" Even as like a little kid, I was like, "What am I looking at here?" Like they had the Green Goblin, and I'm like, "What are they gonna is that norm? Like is that the one from the show?" And then Spider-Man had a new costume, and I remember the guy telling me about it. He's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be great. He's gonna go up against like this new bestial." You know what I mean? I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, it's
Just
bizarre.
yeah.
So
It's not very good.
No, not at all.
People got mad at me. I posted about that, and they go, "It's like the best show ever." I'm like, "Are we talking about the same show? Are we? You know what I mean?" Like,
yeah, when I saw it was on Disney Plus, I actually like I'd been watching standard def copies with my daughter, showing her the Spider-Man cartoons, and when I saw that they had added that to Disney Plus at launch, I was like, oh, you got to see this, and I remembered it completely different from when I was a kid,
yeah.
and I turned it on, and she was like, can we watch the other Spider-Man, Daddy?
She's like, "Why are you
Which,
doing this to me?"
which is funny because the first ones I went to were Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, because that's what I remember. That was my first Spider-Man cartoon. So,
Hmm.
Yeah,
and it's still weird. It's still
we
That
need
one
those
still
figures
holds up,
too.
though.
it holds up. Yeah.
Yeah, and talk about two figures that we need. That would be a hell of a 2-pack for Marvel Legends, getting the other two friends for
Right?
Spider-Man.
Yeah. Wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind actually like completing certain teams like once in a while. You know what I mean? Like that's we get them every once in a while, like Alpha Flight and things like that. But yeah, that would make for great shelf candy.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
So speaking of going back, let's go back to before there was Toy Shiz. How did you start this?
Um, honestly, I've worked in marketing and everything for quite some time. This was like what is it like almost I think we're going on like almost 4 years now, something like that. But it was more like, okay, I'll start an Instagram, like I call like a Funstagram, you know what I mean? Like where you just here's all my dumb toys that I play with, you know what I mean? And this is what I have, and you just kind of like, oh, show off, I guess you could say. But I like to invoke a lot of humor and like you never want to like take this stuff too seriously or else it gets like really weird. You know what I mean? Like you have to have fun and you got to be engaging. And so that's what I try to usually bring to this is just like, here's what's in everybody's collection. Like everybody's got different stuff, but it's really cool because like sometimes I see a lot of people's photos and like, oh man, like, and you're like on eBay late at night, and you're like, I did see that one guy had one. I need one. You know what I mean? So it's cool to see everybody's collection. So when I started it, I had no idea that it would eventually turn into this. You know what I mean? And it turns into like here's news, and you start working with different companies, and I'm very thankful for everything, and I appreciate everyone's support and everything else. And it's been a blast. I can't, to go from here's my fun Instagram, and then now I'm at Toy Fair. It's amazing. So very appreciative of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do a great job of doing just that, of kind of working that humor into it. I mean, even right out of the gate, your name, the fact that it's Toy Shiz and it's kind of a play on words, and it looks like the old Toy Biz logo. Like the humor is there at the get go, and I think I mean that's one of the reasons why before Dave and I started this podcast, I was following you and getting toy news from you. So I mean,
Oh, okay.
it's
Yeah, I think
Well,
it was. I think it was like a Comic Con, maybe the previous San Diego Comic Con with like WWE. The WWE panel, I think, was where I was like, oh, I've heard of this account. Yes,
I
I
always
need to
joke with the
watch that.
WWE and wrestling guys and everything. Like, I'm like, I'm sorry if I ever, because for me, wrestling, I was never much into wrestling figures. I had some of the older ones from the '80s. My brother had some, uh, but I watched it when like Stone Cold, The Rock, and everything else. So every time I see a new wrestler, I have to like look it up, and be like, okay, this is that person's name because I'm used to like, because The Rock, Stone Cold says so, and The Rock and Triple H and like all that kind of stuff, which I don't really do any of that anymore, I guess. But yeah, I try to cover wrestling as best as I can. I always joke around with the Mattel guys. I'm like, you hate me yet?
I mean, I would say it's well. You do well. That's kind of like where Eric left off too, and it's that's me picking up kind of the current stuff for him for us.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll ask you again. In wrestling and all the figures and stuff, have you collected it for like years and years, or is it something like relatively new, or have you like kind of started and then you stopped? You know what I mean? Like, because I know there's like, I mean, what are they on? 107 waves or something like that now, or
Yeah,
it's crazy.
107 of the basic, and I think it's like 75 of the elite. And
Yeah.
I'm just back into it when those retro ones came out, the ones that looked like the old Hasbro ones.
Oh yeah. Uh
And then now that those don't exist anymore, just picked up back onto the elites. But my wrestling figure shopping was for actually for Eric when he was younger.
huh.
Yeah, I was big into the really into those Jack specific waves. Like the first ones, the bone crunch in action. I think they were
Hmm.
were the
Yeah.
lines. But yeah, but like back same thing back when like we still had Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Triple H and Stone Cold and the Rock and Rocky Maivia. Before he was even the Rock. Like
Yeah.
that was really the heyday for me. So I can relate a lot to what you're saying when it comes to wrestlers, especially like when we went to Toy Fair. Unfortunately, Dave couldn't be there both days. I was there Saturday, and he was there with me on Sunday. And of course, Saturday was the day that we had the appointment at Jazzwares. And
Mhm.
he's like hardcore like prepping me before I went into the booth because I hadn't even walked by it. And he's like, do you know what the wrestlers look like? Do you know which ones are going to be there? Thankfully, they had a piece of paper on the wall outside that just showed you which wrestlers are going to be there. And I just sent him a picture of it. I was like, I think I can manage. I got this.
Nice. Yeah, that's all you need. As long as they got posted pieces of paper, you're set. You just wing it. You're like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I know all about Stone Rock and Steve Austin and all that. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me it was mostly pops uh, before that. Before I got back into like the Mattels and stuff.
Oh, okay. I'm not. I mean, I do. I do talk about them every once in a while. Usually, the ones that I think are like cool because there's thousands of those things, and they pop up soon. There's like a new one every day. Like here's Monday's 7 pops that we designed. But I never have gotten into pops. I have one or two. They've been like gifts and stuff that I've kept. But I know people love those things, and I can appreciate a good looking design toy all the time.
I can confirm it escalates quickly.
It escalates to the point where you can't stack it anymore and it falls over. That's how quickly it escalates.
I'm watching something teeter as we speak, so
You just found dead in your house 2 weeks later, like, killed by pops. That'd be awful.
But, there are, that's a great point because, like, companies out there like Funko, you have these kind of shared licenses across these different brands, and there's so many different aspects of the industry to cover. So, like, when you're mixing in humor and then all of a sudden you kind of have this journalistic, you know, pseudo like marketing role with the account, how does that like how does that develop? How do you go from being like the guy making jokes about stuff that's on your shelf to the guy that's breaking stories for literally the internet?
I don't, I don't really have an answer. I don't know. It's like, in let's say working for an old marketing agency, I was the guy that would literally like call up, models and schedule them, and then do craft services table and like kind of organize photo shoots and stuff. So it kind of developed from there. You kind of have to have like this, like I call it like Hollywood kind of like, hey, yeah, you gotta use, you gotta be engaging. You don't want to write like, hey, it's Spider-Man and he's coming out. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. You want to be able to tell everyone real quick. You know what I mean? Like, here's Spider-Man. Here's the price. That doesn't always work. I don't really like to talk about price a lot because that changes so often. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially when a major thing that I like to post about is when there's sales, and my main thing is helping people locate those. You know what I mean? I like when saving people money because there's so many good things, but if you can save cash, that's all the more important. I feel like you don't have to blow a bunch of money on $80 figures when they're going to end up being like $5 at Ross. You know what I mean? Like, and we've all been there, I'm sure. But no, I think I've always thought it's important that if you want to catch people's attention, you just got to be clever, or at least let them know that you know what you're talking about. A lot of people, when I write something, they'll say, "Oh no, it's this," and I'm like, I don't really know how to answer you because I've never heard what you're talking about. And then sometimes I'll go look it up too, and I'll go, I can't find what you're looking for, or else I'll go, oh, I guess there's that one instance that I think, what did I call? I posted about the McFarlane Arkham Knight figure, and they go, "Oh no, it's Arkham Asylum Batman. It's not Arkham Knight." I'm like, I know, I was trying to be like, like Dark Knight, Arkham Knight.
Yes.
Like, and they're like, "No, you can't say that. It's a completely different costume." I'm like, "All right, video game Batman, it is."
Yeah, I actually saw that comment and I was just like, "Oh, come on. You don't understand a good play on words, guy? Like come on, just leave him alone."
But in all honesty, like when I do talk about things like that, like I'll go, it's for me in my head, it's the video game Batman. You know what I mean? Like I, if you saw that costume in any other variation, I would go, that's from the Arkham Knight series. That's from Rocksteady Games, and blah blah blah. But that's just the quick for me. I don't need to go too crazy with it. You know what I mean? Again, and taking it too seriously, like, come on, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, that's one of the downsides of being on the internet and being noticed, right? You're gonna get the people that are gonna nitpick and troll a little bit. Like
Oh yeah, no.
it's gonna happen.
Being out with friends sometimes, and somebody will write something, and I'm just like, yeah, this is what I'm dealing with today, and they'll all laugh, and they're like, I don't even know what that means. I'm like, good, I'm glad you don't. I do.
for better or for worse, I understand. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
right. Like, consider yourself lucky you don't know. Okay, I'll be honest, a lot of my friends, they have. I mean, this is something I've always enjoyed. I like nerdy stuff. A lot of my friends don't. So when they go, they come over, they go, oh wow, look at all this these toys in your collection. That's amazing. And they always are curious. They want to know more, but as soon as they walk out, they're like, so what do you want to do today? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, they leave your hobby at your door.
yeah, and that's totally fine with me because it's I think for a lot of people, including me, it's like it's your own personal time. This is your space, and you can dwell in it, have fun, and then you can leave and go do other things. So
the thing that I get that I love actually, that I actually do love, is people come up to me, "Yo, check out what I just got," and they'll like show me a picture of something, and it's like, "Oh, that's awesome." So that bringing that out of people has been fun.
yeah, Yeah, and people send me stuff a lot. They go, "Oh, look at this! I got in the mail." And sometimes I love when people send me like really old stuff or things that I don't have, and they're like, "Look what I got!" I'm like, "Dang, like that's a nice score you got there." You know what I mean? So I enjoy thoroughly, even like I think everyone's main thing today or last couple days has been the new GI Joe from Hasbro. They're all getting Snake Eyes, but everyone kind of takes the photo in a different way, and it's fun. You know what I mean? And people send videos of unboxing, and it's everyone gets to be who they want to be and just have fun with it. You know what I mean? And that's what I like to see.
And the other thing that's interesting too with like the flood of photos, so whether it's Snake Eyes now, Red Hulk, a couple weeks ago, it's
Ah, yeah.
interesting. It's interesting to see people taking photos of that figure with other figures, right? Because like you
Hmm.
kind of have an idea, of like scale and like how they look next to other stuff, but like people have some weird shit in their collection, and when you see that figure next to something that you don't see every day, it gives you a different perspective of like, whoa, okay, awesome. So that's how that would look with that. And
Yeah. Hmm.
that's one of the things that's so cool about your kind of flow of Instagram stories is the way that you share those photos. It really gives you some insight into like either A, oh, I've never thought to pose that thing like this, or B, like I need that in my collection now because
Yeah.
I didn't know it
And
existed.
and sometimes, I mean, I'm from collecting as long as I have, a lot of times if you're messing with a joint or something like that, and you go, okay, no, like I know better. Years and years of doing this. If you push too hard on stuff, it's gonna break off. Well, like for instance, the other day when I talked about the Rocketeer figure from Diamond Select. I was pulling on the backpack, or the jetpack, and I go, no, that's not going anywhere. And I watched somebody else's review and they got it off, and I go, oh, I'm like, good to know that it comes off. And I tried it myself, pops right back on. So it's helpful to really watch other people because you miss a lot of things. As detailed as you think you are, you're gonna miss stuff no matter what, and that's what's kind of fun is seeing other people. And then I go like this, I go, oh, I guess I could have pulled a little bit harder. You know what I mean? Like point of almost breaking the pack off, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm always worried about that too, especially with some of the McFarlane figures. So like I just got the Scorpion because I wanted something to eventually pose with Spawn when he comes in the mail.
Yeah.
So I got the Scorpion figure, and I was trying for the life of me to get his like scabbard into his belt,
Hmm.
and it just was not going in, and I was like, "Well, I guess it's not happening." And then I went on YouTube and found a video of somebody doing a review of him and showed, like, how very specifically you have to, like, notch it in, and as soon as I saw the video, I was like, "Oh, didn't think that it would ever have plugged in like that." Sure
Yeah.
enough,
Well,
goes in.
that's even like when opening stuff. Like when I opened up that Eric saw this when I opened up the Jushin Thunder Liger Storm Collectibles figure, his arm came off. I'm like, "Oh, this just goes right back in." Um but like, at first the first time you open something, it's like, "Yep, this is made of glass and I need
Yeah.
to be careful when I open it." Now, if you watched how I just like rip through elites, it's just like how do they come out of the package that way? And it's just like,
Yeah.
well, they do. It's this is how you open it. That Rocketeer and the Tron figures might be what finally gets me into those Diamond figures because those are unbelievable.
Yeah, the Rocketeer that they showed that off at Comic Con last year, and I remember talking to the Diamond Select guys and going like like that's what I want to see. You're all like with Marvel Legends and Star Wars and like everything else that you're used to. They're going to deliver good stuff, but it's when you see like that really odd end movie, The Rocketeer, who not a lot of people know about, even to this day. But I was like a huge fan of that when I was a little kid, and to have that figure, I got the Funko one before this one showed up, just to kind of look at him in general because I heard so many good things and bad things about the Funko. Um, but I like the more obscure type figures these days. You know what I mean? Like a lot of what NECA does, a lot of what McFarlane does. With especially with video game stuff. I don't know anything about Cyberpunk 2077, but the figures look rad. You know what I mean? And that's really all. Sometimes it all that really matters is maybe you don't need to know about the property itself, but if you have a really cool looking figure, who cares? You know, the Rocketeer is definitely one of those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just, I mean, some of the kind of detailing that goes into the diamond stuff is unreal.
Hmm.
The gum
And
on the backpack was a awesome touch.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
that was
and
super cool.
it's those little things like that, and a lot of, and I was on one of those people because I was like, oh, he doesn't have his gun, you know, but even in the movie he has it for like a split second, anyways. But it kind of completes the look. But I understand, you know, a lot of, you know, Disney's mandate, you know, all characters can't have guns. And I get it, but he comes with a trigger finger hand, so you could go in your action figure box pile, whatever, all the accessories. I'm sure, you know, we all have a Red Skull somewhere, something like that. He's got plenty of those types of guns, so and it works. You know what I mean? It, as long as that hand was there, you can make it work around those sort of limitations, and I like what Diamond does.
So we were talking before about, like, kind of just, some of the comments and things like that. Um, you've been doing this for a few years. How have you noticed the community change, as far as collecting goes?
Um, I wouldn't. I don't know if I necessarily say it's changed in a huge difference, but I know that just more with the flow of information. And one of the things that I try to really emphasize is, you know, I don't have a website, and a lot of amazing toy sites do. And you can go on there and you have message boards. I mean, I strive to be more like, if you're driving home and you see something I post and you're like, well, Target's right off the, you know, off ramp right there. I could go. You could get every, you know, have the barcode or have the DPCI or SKU or wherever, what store you're going to, and just kind of make it more accessible. You know what I mean? And that is what I hope is helping. You know, just with people finding their stuff. I get a lot of people saying, you know, thank you so much. I didn't know this was coming out. You know, I didn't know where to pre-order this. And that's also a big thing too. Is that, you know, while majority of people have been collecting toys for years and years, you do get a large number of people that, let's say, for example, like the NECA Ninja Turtles stuff, never collected like a NECA figure, don't know what the company is, yada yada. They go, I saw these Ninja Turtles. Can you help me find them? And I go, oh yeah, you know, Target for these, Walmart for these, you know, online, blah blah blah. You know, they go, oh, thank you. So hopefully, just in saying, not a huge change, but I guess the change in how information is shared and so readily available. Um, that's how I hope that the landscape has changed in recent years.
Yeah, I feel like leak culture has kind of dominated the internet, you know, whether it's product leak, whether it's, you know, set photo leak, you know, there's just kind of this we actually talked about it with Gregory Titus, the guy who does the box art for the Black Series figures.
Yeah. Hmm.
And you know, he was saying that, you know, it's like a culture of leaking stuff and kind of controlling that. And you know, it's some of them are intentional, some of them are actual leaks, and it could be challenging to be reporting stuff during that time because, you know, at the same time, you know, we're collectors, right? You know, we want to
Hmm.
make sure that we're doing what's right by the companies that are producing the stuff that we're collecting. So it's a
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like it's a dangerous line to toe.
It's something that, and in all honesty, I myself, in the things that I present, I've made it a priority to change a bit in, not like, you know, you hear stuff a lot and you hear it like months in advance, but to, I guess, in a way, like, kind of, you would say, ruin it for the company. Maybe they have like a big rollout, you know what I mean? Something that they've working hard and everything else. So you have to keep that in mind. At least that's what I do from now on. You know, I can't always say I did that because I, you know, starting out, I was like, oh, this is exciting. But you get to know these people that work in the industry, and you know, it's more for, yes, you could talk about, I label as like spoilers or, you know, something like that, but you know, I always say take it with a grain of salt because you never know what can happen, what can change. Things change all the time. We see it all the time. You know what I mean? Oh, I heard this was going to come. Well, maybe. You know, I always say, well, maybe. We'll see what happens. Especially with like that new Hasbro HasLab, the Sentinel, or you know, whatever it's going to be, of course. But a lot of people, oh, it's this, it's this. I'm like, well, we'll just have to wait and see, especially with the landscape of the world right now. We may not see this in time. We may not see a lot of things in time for the time being. So everything's kind of on hold.
I think the other thing that you bring up too that's like a really good point is we've gotten to the point where everything is in so many different places that it is a bit difficult at times to kind of figure out what is coming out where.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, as you guys are well aware, I mean, it's what is it? It's almost April, and how many Marvel Legends figures waves are out, or how many different every company is nailing it. Like not one company is dropping the ball. There's so much good stuff, and it's continuous every week. Like you said, last let's see, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago was Red Hulk. Now this week is like Snake Eyes, and it's every week is like a new figure, new company of what they're rolling out. But that's really fun to just that's the figure of the week per se.
Speaking of a figure that's been causing a lot of waves, actually, you had a recent very successful giveaway with McFarlane Toys and their new very very highly sought after Spawn figure.
I've never heard of this. What are you talking about, Spawn? That's that's
Would
a
that be the
weird.
Mortal Kombat 11 spawn?
I
I
couldn't tell. I have no idea. This is news to me. This is weird.
In case you missed it, which if you did, I'm deeply sorry. Go back and watch the YouTube videos because you did a great job with them, especially
Uh,
seeing those old
Thank
Spawn
you.
figures. They're great.
Thank
Um,
you.
I immediately went on YouTube went on eBay to try to find that Clown 4 figure because it's unbelievable. With
That
like pizza box and everything, unreal.
Yeah, that one. I have a few other clown figures. I mean, they progressively got better. I think four is my favorite, but it's also the best one because was it clown? I think it's clown five. He's like shoeless, and he's the way he's posed. This one is just like kind of like it's a good pre-posed clown. It works with a lot of things, and he can hold stuff. So um, that's why it was kind of hard picking which Spawn figures to do because there's so many great ones. But I was like, let's do some villains. If everyone's gonna have this Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn, then I'm gonna go back and tell them like, hey, if you're missing Malbolgia or Violator or Clown or Jason Wynn, something like that, like these work with this new figure. So go back and get them because there's no sense in waiting for them to make new ones when there's already these great ones out already.
Yep.
Well, I
So
just remember Overkill being like the heaviest figure of all time.
Oh, yeah, that and especially, yeah, the big one, Overkill too, the one that I looked at, like, he's massive, and in my video, I was telling everybody, I'm like, "This is what you got for $20," and sometimes on clearance,
Yeah,
it was ahead of their time, so to speak, and, using that kinda loosely because it was a great time, especially for toys back in the day, but articulation wasn't where I guess where people would necessarily want it these days, but growing up in that kind of era, articulation to me is always second. If the character looks like what it's supposed to look like, that's what matters the
yeah,
most.
and those definitely did. And I think what was it? Eric, I think you had it where his head popped out.
yeah,
Like that was the
the original Overkill from like that
Yeah.
first wave, he had a button on his back and his head would launch out like a rocket, and it came out with like velocity, like
and those toys were like LJN Andre the Giant heavy. Like
Oh, it was like a brick. Each one was like a brick in a package, basically. It was different. And I remember, seeing the original clamshell ones weren't. I can't remember them seeing them on the store shelves. Let's say like Target, but it was like when they did like the series 4 or 5, you start seeing more in like retail and things, and you start going like, oh, like that's a lot of stuff.
I think they were a big Suncoast video thing by us
Yep, that's where I remember getting mine
and
was
Sam
Suncoast
Goody.
Video.
Yeah, oh yeah, most at Tower Records,
Yup.
the warehouse.
Yeah, because none of the actual like toy retailers wanted to carry them because they were super violent and scary and weird and you know.
Yeah, I remember when I was a little kid, I was with my grandmother, and I got the Gravedigger, and then like a week or two later, the Planet of the Symbiotes came out. I think if that timing is right, but I remember my grandmother saying like, "Why do you like all this weird like evil stuff?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I'm like, "It's cool." I'm like, "Look, this one's got its tongue out." You know what I mean? Like it's appealing to kids, but I don't think retailers knew exactly the storyline behind Spawn a lot of the times. I remember hearing a story even about like the animated series, like Fox Kids, if I'm not mistaken, wanted to do like Spawn, the animated series, like Saturday morning, and Todd McFarlane was in an interview saying like, "Have you guys watched Spawn before?" Or I mean, do you know what Spawn comics are about and everything else? Like, it just doesn't work. You know, like what kind of cartoon could you possibly get out of that? And that's why HBO just nailed it. You know, you could do everything and anything in that format. So
You could do anything on HBO.
yeah,
That was a great series.
It really
yeah.
was. But how did that that contest with McFarlane and WB Games, how did that come up?
I will say that I mean it's nice, you know, talking with certain people in different companies and such. And one thing, it's really funny to me, and I'll just say this loosely, but uh, for people that you grow up with, especially in like grade school, high school, and stuff, you know, relationships matter, and you never know when those are going to come up again. Just FYI. So I will say just that in a mysterious way that. You know, it worked out, and in knowing people in that industry. So it went off without a hitch. And I thank you to everyone who watched. I mean, we gave out 2 full platinum Mortal Kombat games. We gave away 2 signed Spawn figures, which was amazing. Like just in talking with McFarlane Toys, like it was something, you know, we had kind of talked about, and then it was like, well, let's do 2 of them, and I was like, all right, and they're gonna sign it. That's amazing. You know what I mean? So um, yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better thing, especially now with what's going on in the world. Just a little bit of a break and having something fun to do, I think is very meaningful. You know what I mean? So, and I know a lot of companies are doing giveaways now and everything else. So it's nice that everyone's just kind of helping each other and just having some fun as best as we can, because just the world is the worst right now.
Well, I mean, right now it really is a super weird time to literally do anything.
Yeah,
Whether it's get food, or something so trivial as go into a toy aisle and see if there's something in stock. Um and we've seen, you as soon as Instagram launched kind of their stay at home sticker and platform, and that kind of whole message. We
yeah,
saw that you jumped in, and we instantly were like, that is a fantastic idea, and like, started adopting it, and trying to make it as forward as possible, because it is important, and it's global. This is really like, I feel like in our generation, this is really the first kind of like global thing that is impacting everybody like this, and is dangerous, and people for whatever reason are not listening.
yeah. I say this in like the most humble way possible. It's like it's something you have to learn, that you know, when you get to a certain point of saying, you know, you can influence people, quote unquote. Oh, this toy came out, go buy it. You learn that whatever you write has impact. And you know, for me to continue to say, yeah, like send me your store finds, like it's actively promoting people going out. You know, oh, this is okay. It's not okay. This is serious at this point. So that's why I was like, okay, no more. And you know, I'm not doing this as like a popularity. This is a real thing. Like, do not go out unless you have to work or get food or essentials, like something like that. So I appreciate everyone who always sends me, you know, their store finds and stuff, but I will not. I mean, until this is over with, and I can go out, you know, to the store. I mean, I'm feeling it. I have Target fatigue. You know what I mean? I'm getting the shakes
I
from
I hear
from
you.
not going.
Yeah.
So it's just my way of doing it. Like if you're gonna go out, I mean, I'm not gonna get upset with you. It's not my business, but you know, you know better, or at least I hope so. Don't go out looking for toys. Don't blow a bunch of money. You know what I mean? If you don't have it, this is just save your money. Just stay home, enjoy with what you have, and I'm sure a lot of us have tons of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I feel like if you have any sort of platform right now, in any field, in any sort of social media influencing field, it's like almost like a duty at this point to
Yeah.
to to make sure that you are sending that message and making sure that even a small audience that listens to you comparatively is doing the right thing. And I'm happy to say that you know since you've started posting stuff like that, I've seen a whole lot less, at least in our feed, of people taking pictures of things in Target and Walmart and stuff like that. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing, but
No, I am, yeah, and I'm actually glad because in all honesty, you know what I mean. If if they're sending less, then hopefully that means that you're not going out. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing. At least till we see how this is going to go. Now we've heard, okay, 2 weeks. We'll give it 2 weeks. I think what, April 12th. I mean, I can't say either way on how that's going to go, but don't, get your hopes up about anything. I mean, this could get incredibly worse or it could get better, but just enjoy what you have at home and talk to your friends and I mean, I've talked to so many people on the phone, and kind of it's like a break from reality in a sense. Like you can relax at home to the best of your ability and get stuff done. I mean, I've been doing yard work for like the last couple days. I go outside every day, clean the yard, something. Just do the things, and then you come back to collecting, and we'll be better than ever.
well, it's funny you started that collect at home kind of hashtag that people were hopping on, and it gave me
Yeah.
an idea. My daughter's school is closed. I'm working from home, so my lunch breaks are basically just family time at this point.
Yeah.
So I took her into the basement and grabbed one of my old bins of like just kind of random toys that I had saved, and her eyes lit up, and it was like taking her to a toy aisle, and
Oh, that's amazing.
breathing life back into my like original Toy Biz Incredible Hulk, like the old ones, the Captain America, some of my old Batman the Animated Series figures. She found my Batman Returns Batmobile, the one where like you hit the button and it splits into three pieces.
Oh
Um
yeah.
so, like, she is loving all of these toys to the point where, like, her new toys that she, has gotten over the past couple years, she's not playing with them. She's playing with my old stuff, and I love the idea of just kind of like you don't. Some people, pack stuff away. You forget what you have, and this gives you a chance to go back and enjoy it again. So, you know,
Yeah.
I love the message, and I hope other people really are catching on to it and discovering the weird old stuff in their collections.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, and I'm so glad that that you guys were able to do that, and she could enjoy that. That means a lot. I have been seeing a lot of people doing that very thing. Oh, I went in my basement and I found this old box, or I opened this thing. It's been on my shelf for years. I finally like I opened up an old Invader Zim figure the other day because it's been sitting there, and I'm like, how fitting now to open up a germ fighting Invader Zim. You know what I mean? And it's like everyone. I think it does you good to kind of just slow down. Like I said, Red Hulk was last week. Spawn was the week before. You know what I mean? Like it's important, and I get to that point too. There's so much stuff that back in the day you'd open something and you get to play with it for a bit, and then you got to wait 6 months for the next round of Spider-Man Toy Biz figures to come out or something like that. So you have this time to enjoy them, and that's where a lot of my memories come from too. Like especially when I do like the old retro Shiz videos, if I have a good memory I can share or something like that, I like to do that because you had a lot of time to kind of dwell on it. Whereas today, life goes so fast, and this is coming out, and now the new Spider-Man, now the Batman, and it's like everyone just like slows down just a bit, just for the time being, even if it's just for another month or so. Like at least we got this time to all kind of see how things were in a slower capacity. So
So I mean, that Invader Zim find is a find and a half. But what are some of the kind of more bizarre, weirder, kind of eclectic things that you've come across as you've been finding your old stuff?
you know what? I pulled out some. Real Monster figures the other day.
Yes.
You guys
Nice.
remember those? I don't have them all, so I've been kind of like going on sites and stuff like trying to collect them all.
Who was the guy that was basically just armpits and legs and held his
Oh,
eyes?
Crumb,
Crumb.
Krumbb or something like that, and Icus and Oblina. Like the line, I remember the line being. I got them at Toys R Us, and I remember I bought them because I didn't. There was no new Spider-Man figures out. I'm like, well, I got to buy something, obviously, with this gift card that I got because you find money in your hand when you're a kid. You just got to blow it. But I mean, I'm glad I still have the ones that I have, and Crumb actually, his armpits smell, which is awesome, and, like,
Still?
each one has, like, it's gone. It used to be terrible, like, when you open it I remember opening up the box, and it was like they put something in there. It's like kinda like a Stinkor,
I was gonna say Stinkor,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's probably along the same thing, but I mean, I can't tell you the last time. I don't think any companies really do that anymore. Um, but each one had like a function. You know what I mean? Like Blina kind of expands and Icus's mouth open, and his eyes get all red. So they're cool toys. You know what I mean? And it's something that's. I mean, when was the last time anybody talked about All Real Monsters? You know what I mean? Like, I would like to see that come back. That was a fun, interesting show. Um, but yeah, I guess off the top of my head, those were ones that I pulled out. I got a lot of weird stuff. I'm like looking around my office right now. I'm like, I don't know, Ghostbusters.
Well, even those are coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The both in the real Ghostbusters form and those new the new Hasbro ones, the 6-inch guys.
The real
I know.
Ghostbusters
Yeah.
ones are awesome. Like I'm considering.
Oh, you're talking about the Walmart re-releases, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Seeing those on display, like just being at the Hasbro thing with the Ghostbusters setup and stuff, I was like, wow, like this is Ghostbusters to me, like, is probably like, like I always tell everybody, like, that's my go-to. Like, I'll take everything Ghostbusters. It's just that's where all my memories, growing up and collecting toys and everything else kind of starts. But to see that at Toy Fair again, you're like, oh wow, this, and especially the real Ghostbusters all lined up and everything else, that's really cool. So
So I have to ask you,
mm.
what's coming from Toy Shiz? Anything fun in the works that we should keep an eye out for?
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of stuff is a little bit on hold, just in sense of like any more giveaways for just a sec until things go back to normal. But as far as what I'm doing, just as like a solo entity, I'll have tons of video. I mean, I work in the mornings and I work a little bit in the evenings and stuff. And in the time between, I'll find a time to do a video, or I do one at night before bed, or something like that. So there's a lot of time to do a lot of stuff right now. So I'd say take advantage of it. But in that sense, y'all have tons more videos coming. A lot of, like, in the sense of like collected home and stuff. Like, there's not a lot of new toys to be had at the moment. Like the Marvel Legends Black Widow stuff came out. I didn't go, like, that's right around like when this whole thing started happening. I was like, I don't want to go outside right now. The heck with this. Like, those toys can wait. Um, but there's so many things in my collection that I want to go over. So if you guys have any suggestions or any toy lines, you know what I mean, like, that's what I like to do. I like to say, oh, what do you guys want to see? And I look at YouTube a lot too, because I love watching other people's videos and going like, oh, they had the same kind of experience, or they like this figure. And usually, I do a lot of toys that have never shown up on YouTube before. So that's my contribution sometimes to those one or two people that want to see that video.
I would love to see more of that the Our Real Monster stuff.
Okay, all right.
Definitely do that. That sounds wild.
I'll tell you what, I'll definitely do that. I got like one or two left to get, and then because I'd love to do, like, I like doing full collections usually, like when it's a small, because there's like seven total that they ever released. A bunch of stuff didn't get made. I don't think the line did too well, but they're interesting. They're well sculpted. They're interesting toys, so I will definitely put them on the list.
And for those out there that do not know where to find you, which I can't imagine anybody who's listening to this doesn't know where to find you, but remind our listeners, where can they find you?
I make it real easy. Every time it's Instagram, Facebook, what am I, YouTube, Snapchat, if I still run that. I don't know anymore. No, just Toy Shiz, Toyshi with a Z. And I just thank you guys for having me on. This has been an absolute blast.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And like always, we'll keep an eye on everything that you're doing and can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you. And stay safe out there. Just be healthy, all that jazz. And hopefully we can all meet up at Target one of these days.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both in our show notes.
Follow us on social media at AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.